Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. Carlos, how you living? Oh. Appreciate you. Carlos, do you play guitar? That's like my favorite chord progression. I don't know if any of the viewers are familiar with chord progressions. Usually chord progressions stem from the chord scale. So right now I'm in the minor key. D minor to be exact, so D minor scale. If I were to take that scale and take every note to be a number instead, like that would be the 1, right? The 1 would be minor, the 2 would be diminished, the 3 would be major, the 4 would be minor, or another place playing it, the 5 would be major or minor, the 6 would be major, flat 6, the 7 would be major, then the 1 would be minor. Usually my favorite chord progression is to go from the 1 to the 6, maybe a 4, then a 5, which is what I'm playing over. And I'm gonna explain the numbers again. Usually 1 is minor, usually 6 is major, usually 4 is minor, usually 5 is minor. Sometimes I might make it dominant. That was a walk-up. So here's the walk-up. 4 to the 5 to the 6 to the... That's like not really the 7, because there's the 7. I did a raised 7, a diminished chord, a fully diminished chord. Can I go over intervals like the 4th, the 5th, the 7th, and how to identify them? Yeah, Kyle. So technically, as I was just talking about the scale, intervals usually stem from the scale. So I identify intervals first by looking at scale degrees. So right now I'm in D minor, but let's make it easier and take it to C. If I were to look at the scale, right, and I'm going to take the scale and replace it with scale degrees. This is the 1, this is the 2, this is the 3, this is the 4, this is the 5, this is the 6, this is the 7, and this is the 1. By scale degree, I'm talking about the position of the note within the scale. But you're asking about interval. An interval is the distance between two notes. So not just the position of the note between the scale or within the scale, not just the position of the note within the scale, but understanding that positioned note in relation to another note. So if I were to play the 1 and the 2 at the same time, that would be considered a second because they are 2 notes apart, a second apart, the 1 to the 2. A major second, more specifically. If I were to go from the 1 to the 3, that would be considered a third. A major third because I'm in the major scale. Now, if I was in the minor scale, like the flat third, minor scale, the difference between major and minor, usually you lower the third, the 6th, and the 7th. So instead of playing 1, 2, 3, you're playing 1, 2, a flat 3, or a lowered third. So if I were to play that interval, it would sound like this. This is a minor third compared to a major third. So we have our 1, also known as unison. So if I play both of those notes at the same time, there's my unison. If I decided to play a second, there's my second. Here's my minor third. Here's my major third. And if I were to keep going, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I were to play the 1 and the 4 at the same time, that'd be considered a fourth. If I were to play the 1 and the 5 at the same time, that'd be considered a fifth. Same thing with the 6, major 6. But of course, in a minor key, you would lower the 6. So 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6. There's a flat 6 or a minor 6. Same thing for the 7. Here's a lowered 7th. So that is considered 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. We consider that a minor 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here's a major 7. Just the 2 notes, not the major 7 chord, as you would say. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here's my octaves, because that's the same note. So you just learned more about theory and about than you did in 40 lessons. So there's different types of guitarists. Not every guitar teacher. There's different types of guitarists and different types of guitar teachers. Not every guitar teacher is teaching you music theory. I was fortunate to be a self-taught guitarist. I learned everything that I did from YouTube and all the things. And I wasn't learning it from a theoretical perspective, but just really learning my favorite songs. And at that point, it was cool. But I didn't really understand the theoretical aspect of guitar until I decided to take private lessons in college. And I decided to take music seriously. When I decided to take music seriously and I decided to take private lessons in college, at that point, my private lesson teacher would be talking in a lot of theory, and I'd be sitting there understanding it slower than the pace that he would be teaching it. I could probably play it. Sometimes my brain would process it quicker than my playing ability, but sometimes my playing ability would be quicker than my thinking. So that is the concept of intervals. How can you identify intervals? Well, most times you can recognize the distance between 2 notes because the distance between notes doesn't change. I did that in the key of C, right? So that's a C to a D. That's a major second. If I decide to do D to E, that's still a major second because it's one note missing in between it. D, D sharp, and E. So if I play both of those notes together, that's a major second. If I decide to play E to F sharp, E, skip, F sharp, that's a major second. It doesn't matter where you do it. And I think that's the beneficial thing about guitar. Like, you could take shapes and move them all around the guitar. Right now I'm playing a major third. This is still a major third. This is still a, here's an E. Here's a major third above that because it's the shape. So I love the fact that like guitar is very shape based because it makes it a lot easier to process and understand when it comes to applying theory. Now, how can you recognize these intervals? When you're learning from other guitarists, you can recognize it by shape. Kind of like everybody knows power chords. Whenever you play a power chord, you're playing the interval of a fifth. That's why if you were to ever see power chords written as sheet music or on sheet music, on lead sheets, like I don't know if you've ever seen chords that were just written as letter name, number, like C, and it would say play a C chord, or C5. That would mean play a C power chord. So just play a C and the fifth note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a power chord right there. Sometimes you could get away with adding the octave on top of that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus the octave. And at that point, you're playing a C5, also known as a power chord. So recognizing certain intervals by shape is easy for guitarists because you'll see a certain shape and you'll begin to memorize it. There's a website that's very good for this, musictheory.net. Musictheory.net. Actually, I'm not going to share my screen. Musictheory.net. They have, I think it's orange. Like when you click on musictheory.net and click on exercises, you'll scroll through. You'll see a lot of different exercises. But you might see fretboard or guitar-based exercises. And the orange ones, because they're color-coded, the orange ones are for guitar. You'll see fretboard note identification, which means just recognizing that one note. But you might see fretboard interval identification, which is seeing an interval shape on guitar and being able to recognize it. So seeing 2 frets stacked on top of each other, a 3 and a 3 on the E string and the A string, and recognizing that that's a fourth because guitar is nothing but fourths built on top of each other. So E to A is a fourth. A to D is a fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4. So recognizing certain intervals by shape is good, but also recognizing intervals by using that ear is very, 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 very chef's kiss, like muy bonita. You can use songs to recognize intervals. Like a fourth. 1, 4. Amazing Grace works. 1, 4. Or what if I decided to do it in a completely different key? Here's my 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 4. It don't matter where you are. I'm gonna do it on a completely different high notes. That was an octave of where we started, but you know, still 1, 4. But there's songs for every interval, and there's standard songs, and I hate using standards. It's kind of like learning from a book. Like to say the very first song you should learn is Hot Cross Buns or Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. I never agree with that, but those songs are common. So there are standards in order to learn these intervals. Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, for example, could be the fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 1, 5, 5. Tangent. Did y'all know that was the alphabet song, right? Twinkle A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I seen a video where some schools were changing the alphabet song because LMNOP was a little bit too challenging for certain students. Sorry to go on this tangent. I know this is about guitar, but they changed it to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N. And I was like, what is that? Like, That's not elemental P. You know, whatever. That's a tangent. But back to the chat. Sorry, I know I've been ignoring the chat in order to explain intervals more thoroughly. There are songs for every interval. To finish up that conversation before I move on to the chat, there are songs for every interval, or there's like a melody that you could recognize for every interval, and there's a standard set of songs that you could use. But I find the easiest ones to memorize are the ones that you know personally. So if you didn't grow up singing Amazing Grace, don't try to memorize Amazing Grace just so that you can memorize a fourth. Like, figure out what songs in your catalog do you recognize that, and then recognize the intervals between those. And then from there, you'll understand intervals easily. So I think that's like the biggest gem of all gems when it comes to learning intervals. Appreciate you, John, if you're still watching. I love to just spew out info. I love doing these guitar Q&As and just giving out advice to new guitarists on the block. You know what I'm saying? Self-taught guitarist, because I was once in your shoes. I was a self-taught guitarist for 11 years. I decided to take lessons my 12th year. And from there on, I was just, I wouldn't say rocking with lessons. I took lessons for 4 years, 5 years, from like my 12th year to my 16th year. But by my 14th year of playing guitar, I was actually a professional guitarist. I've been playing for about 20 years now. So by my 14th year, I decided to actually start gigging. I didn't decide, but I received the opportunities and felt like I was good enough to do it. No, I'm not doing no song requests. Gray Ninja. Sorry, you had to read the pinned message. No song requests. I'm not playing no solos. I'm not looking up songs. You just learned about theory. Oh, yeah. I already read that one. Gabriel. However you pronounce it. Good to see you in the chat again, because I remember the name. Please what? What did you ask a question? I just see the word please. I don't know if YouTube censored your post, but you know, you have issues ending like a improvisation. Like it feels like something sounds bad to end on the root, but not sure for other options you have for resolution notes. Sing them on the neck ahead of time is what I'm assuming what you mean by ahead. Ending solos. I would say a lot of people, whenever they're soloing, they think too hard about solos. Solos can be the easiest thing ever, in my honest opinion. Like, hold on, let me put on a loop track. I don't know how to do this. Okay, boom. That's how I do it. Sorry, I'm trying to do this with my feet. I'm gonna just bend over. Pause. No diddy. Okay, cool. Setting up a loop. Oop. How do I undo? Stop. Undo. Here we go, right? That's my loop. So solos can be very simple. Right now I'm in the key of B flat, right? It doesn't have to be major. It could be minor, right? It doesn't matter what key that I'm in right now because it doesn't change anything. But if I were to solo over something like this, I don't have to think too hard. I could just play the root. I can play around the scale. That was a fancy way of playing around the scale. A simpler way. That could have been the ending of my solo. I didn't have to take it too fancy and do more with it. So I think one of my favorite things that I learned when I was in school in regards to understanding how to solo, keep things simple. repetition is also good. So like I could play something like the first note over, go in. Take a pause, play that again. Slightly develop it by changing a note, right? Do that same thing again. Adding a note to it. Yep. And whenever I'm ready for it, I could just end it, right? There's nothing wrong with ending on the one. There's nothing wrong with ending on the one. But in my opinion, improvisation is just creating on the fly. So if you are not confident in your improvisation and ending, start to write out your solos. Just write it out in advance. There's a couple solos that I go to all the time. Like I wrote out some solos for some songs that I was recording. Like I have a lo-fi track out and this is the solo for it. And it doesn't matter what key I'm in because I learned it for every key. So here's the solo. It sounds like this. And that's the entire solo. I wrote it out in order to record it effectively. And then by the time that it was time to actually record it, it took me a few tries, even though I wrote it out. That's the second pick I dropped. I got like a stack of picks beside me. So if I drop a pick, I could just grab another. But I got to stop dropping these picks, y'all. But yeah, like don't overthink it. And if you are going to actually think about it, and you're not going to improvise, but you're going to write out the solo, keep it simple and just get it done. Like you don't have to overdo it. Just keep it simple. But yeah. What is a good process for learning a song by ear? I love that question. A good process for learning a song by ear. Learn the melody, learn the harmony, learn the style. That's a 3-step process right there. Number one, I don't know why I threw up a number 3 when I said that. Number one, learn the melody. So if you're learning a song by ear, a song that you never heard before, usually the melody is going to be the highest note or the singable line. So find something that it's like that you can sing and that you can repeat. More than likely, your ear is going to gravitate towards the highest note though. So keep singing that, keep repeating that and figure it out. I think a lot of people disregard how good your ears. Oops, sorry, I got a burp. Held it in. I think a lot of people disregard how good their ears usually are. Like one time I always like do these tests because I teach high school guitar. So I often do this test with my students where I'm like, figure out what string I'm playing. And just figuring out what string you're playing is training your ears to hear better. So I'll just play string 1. And a few of them might play string 2 and then they'll find string 1 right afterwards. And they're like, oh, that was this string. I might do this one. And then they might play the wrong string, but then they figure it out afterwards. So more than likely, you can figure out the notes easily through trial and error. And there's 1,000 different ways to play the same note on the guitar. I understand that it's going to get a little bit challenging, but you're going to be able to figure out over time. So learn the melody first because melody is usually single notes, one note at a time. I think that's the most powerful step. Then learn the harmony. Learning harmony might be a bit challenging for most people, especially if you're not too familiar with like recognizing chords right out the bat. But again, that gem that I dropped earlier, musictheory.net. My mic is cutting out. Uh-oh. Is this even... Hold on, let me check my live stream platform. Mic check. Okay, I think I just need to be closer to the microphone. Lifts it up so I don't got to bend down. Send a thumbs up if it's working better. What was I saying though? That gem that I dropped earlier, musictheory.net. If y'all actually go on musictheory.net and y'all like look for it, there is an ear training section. One that can help you recognize notes, one that can help you recognize chords, all the things. So, um, recognizing chords is a very powerful thing, but it might be hard to recognize chord progressions because at that point you might be trying to listen for one chord at a time. So it's better if you know the chord scale, but you're trying to learn a song. And I think learning a song by ear and learning chords, two different things. The easiest way to learn the chords to a song before like doing a whole ear training journey, the easiest way to learn the chords to a song before doing an ear training journey and like learning one chord at a time and like focusing on whether you're learning um all your different, I wouldn't say all your different major scales, but the difference between major scale versus minor, or the difference between like major versus minor versus diminished, or major minor versus diminished versus augmented, or adding in those extended chords or doing all of that. It might be easiest if you just listen to the melody first, learn the melody first, and then when it's time to learn the harmony, listen to the low pitch notes, the bass notes, learn all the bass notes. So like find the bass line and then just play the bass line as power chords. More than likely the bass is going to be the foundation of the harmony. And if you play a power chord by playing the 1 and the 5 of the scale, once you play the 1 and the 5 of the scale, you're not playing a chord. I mean, you're technically playing a chord. It's a power chord, but you're not playing a major or minor chord, because usually the third note of the chord is is the identifier of the chord. It's what lets you know what type of chord you're playing. So if all you're playing is the 1 and the 5, like if I were to go back to that loop, I'm playing it as power chords. You can't tell if this is major or minor because all I'm doing is playing power chords, right? Here's major. Here's minor. Ready, and... But I wasn't adding the third in, so all you heard was the 1 and the 5. And that's an easy way of getting started with playing chords, especially for guitar, because power chords are going to help you get used to the shapes, like your E shapes and your A shapes. And those are caged shapes. I don't know if you're familiar with caged, but when you look at your cage shapes, your E shape and your A shape, those are very common. But those are easy to recognize where is the major versus minor, because after you get power chords, all you gotta do is just add a middle finger to make it major or minor. After you get the power chord, you make it a bar. You just add the middle finger or take it away to make it major versus minor. For the E shape, that is. For the A shape, is the same as the major E shape down in order to play A minor. Or you raise up the B string a half fret, a half step, up 1 fret in order to make it major. I know that probably sounded confusing, but if you're confused about it, of course, just send me an email. My email is contact, 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 like you're trying to contact me, at paulneilmusic.com. If you have any questions about any of these things, contact at paulneilmusic.com, and you can just ask me any of these questions again, and we can like set up some time. I'll explain the concepts to you directly. That way we're not wasting time on a live stream and I'm not over explaining something and you don't send messages back and forth, but you could just talk to me and it could be easier. So yeah, let's do it like that. Yeah, man. So yeah, learn the melody. This is the process of learning songs. Learn the melody, learning songs by ear. Learn the melody, learn the harmony, learn the style. After you learn the melody and learn the harmony, learn the style. So what do I mean by learn the style? You might have learned that the notes were, but they probably didn't play it like that. They probably did like hammer-ons and bends, slides, shakes, a whole bunch of things like double stops, the entire 9, while you're trying to learn one note at a time. The style is what gives it that sauce, that drip. You know what I'm saying? So learn the notes first. Once you learn the notes, you're going to understand how to move your fingers. And then when you put the style on it, you're going to understand how to actually make it flavorful, if that makes sense. So like the first thing is to learn the chord. Even if the chord is a minor 9, after you learn that, they might have a hammer-on when they're trying to get that nine to come out. So learn the melody first, learn the harmony, and then learn the style. That's my process to learning songs by ear. Appreciate you for dropping the knowledge, man. I appreciate y'all if it's happening. No, seriously, for real, for real. Rhodes said when you were in jazz band playing trombone, so guitar and trombone, Rhodes, like we're twins. My trombone in the living room. I started on guitar when I first picked up my instrument. Like as a kid, I started on guitar and piano. But then, like fifth grade, I joined the band, and trombone was my first band instrument. I took trombone all the way through college. Trombone is the reason why I was able to take guitar lessons for free because I was on a trombone scholarship, a band scholarship through trombone. But I told them I didn't want to study trombone. They were like, "Well, what do you want to study?" They had a guitar in the corner, and they said, "Yeah, you can study that." So I studied that, and I still had to play trombone for my scholarship, like march in the marching band and do all the things. But all day, every day, I would be thinking about guitar. But Rhodes Guitar told Kyle when he was in the jazz band playing guitar, doing solos, playing trombone, doing solos was mostly coming up with phrasing like you're talking to someone. That is the key response. Call and response type stuff. That is so true. And I read that comment. But yeah, that is so true when it comes to like improvisation and doing solos. Phrasing is a big thing. My band director used to tell me your instrument is an extension of your voice. So if you were ever to play anything, whether that's improvisation, whether that's solos, or whether that's just repeating songs that you've heard, you always want to play it as if you were saying it. So you don't want it to be monotone. You want to have some sort of inflections. And you can get the inflections by using dynamics, or you can get the inflections by using differences in pitch. Just like how I'm talking right now. I'm trying not to talk like a robot who's just saying the same thing over and over again. And I'm trying to do differences in pitch and not talking the same tone and have different dynamics. Because if I were to talk like that, you would be like, oh, this guy's a NPC. He's not real. You know what I'm saying? But the moment that I add a little bit of inflection, or like I might whisper a couple things and then like come out louder for a couple things, you're gonna hear the difference in dynamic, hear the difference in pitch, and that's going to translate to how you should play as well. So you don't want to play a solo like what I played earlier, right? That's my loop. I'm gonna go back to my loop. You don't want to play a solo that was the same volume the entire time. Um, and it didn't even seem like I was phrasing the sentences to make sense, phrasing what I was trying to play, the musical sentences to actually fit a sentence. It just seemed like I was just like playing notes versus me trying to make a sentence like, what about this? That could be a start of a sentence, right? Where I'm just at least introducing a concept and then saying it over and over again for people to actually hear what I'm saying. And you heard the difference in dynamics because I wasn't just doing everything loud. I was trying not to do that, but I dropped a string. Hopefully you were able to hear um, differences in dynamics, and differences in like when I was starting a phrase properly, as if like the sentence made sense, as if the phrasing made sense, as if it was a good time to end that concept or in that idea, in that conversation, in that line before moving on to a different line, especially with like the repetition. I find repetition to be the best concept when it comes to improvisation, because sometimes you just have to keep repeating things in order to get the idea out. And guitar is easy to do that, in my opinion. If I was doing it on horn, I feel like it would just get it would be a lot more annoying and a lot more redundant. But yeah, great comments, Rhodes. That was a great comment for Kyle. I don't know if Kyle received that message well, but yep. Jet Lord, COD, I'm assuming Call of Duty Mobile. Hello. I don't know about Buddy. Miles Davis said, don't play what you hear in your head, but play the open space like you're responding to what you hear in your head. Yeah, I seen that video. That was absolutely crazy. I seen somebody doing that, and I was thinking like that's like next level. It's kind of like thinking about what you're going to say before you say it. I wouldn't say a problem with that. I used to have a problem with saying the first thing that was on my mind and not really thinking it through. And I'm not even talking about playing. I'm just talking about like conversations with my wife, conversations with my friends. I would just say the first thing instead of like thinking it through and saying, that probably wasn't the best idea to say, because you can imagine what the response would be. But like, if you just play those responses instead, everybody's going to assume what the initial conversation was. So imagine applying that to the instrument, like top tier. Yeah, man. Just wanted to stop by and say thanks so much for the help. Anytime. What's my recommendation on writing a good riff? Keeping it simple and getting it done. Good is subjective. Somebody's going to think it's a good riff and it might not sound good to you. So find that rhythm that you love, find that note pattern that you love, and just go for it. But don't overthink it, and don't think that you have to fill it up with every musical concept. Just keep it simple and get it done. Like the riff is going to be good and the riff is going to be complete the moment that you say, yeah, I think I'm done. Yeah, I think this is good. Yeah, I'm just going to end it here. That's the moment where you know that you're good and you don't have to work any harder, or you don't have to do any more. Because at that point, what else can they say? You know what I'm saying? So, and don't write a riff that's past your capabilities. Ever since I changed the sound settings to put on that looper, I have not been a fan of what this is, what it sounds like. I'm going to go back to my favorite preset. Uno momento. Here we go. All right, y'all. So that was a little tidbit. I do appreciate y'all for the moment of Q&A. It's only been 42 minutes. Check me out. It's 8 people on the live stream right now. I have recently posted a video on my channel. If you could check out that video, you will be doing me love. You'll be doing me kindness. Your favorite thing about trombone and jazz band was learning to harmonize with the trumpets naturally. Yep. I was a fan of harmonizing when I was on trombone too. But the point that I was about to make, though, was it's 11:30. I did just want to make sure that I went live for a little bit tonight. So if I only have 40 minutes in me, 45 minutes in me, I decided to do it. So this is not going to be a long live stream. Usually I could be on here for hours on end, but I got work in the morning. My wife just got home from a night out with friends. I want to spend some time with her. So I appreciate all of y'all for tapping in. Until next time, turn on the notification bell. That way you'll see the next time that I do go live. So hopefully this isn't the last time that I see you in the chat. And I'm going to pay attention because I always pay attention to who's talking to me in the chat. But yeah, peace out, Cub Scouts. Hold it down, Girl Scouts.